Hey everyone, hope you're all doing well. This video is going to be a bit different. This one's not going to be so much advice or hard facts or empirical evidence, but this is going to be to let you know how I see the world and where I stand at this moment. I've constantly had thing after thing change, where I've seen many different situations. People have come into my life and have changed me. I recently talked to Wasabi, and that was another moment for me that really changed me for the better. So, I'm just talking to you unfiltered without a script. Unfortunately, there's a lot of editing I'm having to do, which kind of sucks. But I can kind of handle that, just because it means that I can be real with you. So let me tell you some things that's helped me in my life. The first one was a little backstory for me is I grew up very different from a lot of people. I got in trouble a lot at school, and I had a hard time making any real friends. I was bullied pretty heavily, and that's the story for quite a bit of people. And honestly, I wasn't a good brother or anything like that to my siblings, and I can own up to that. The person I am today is significantly better, and I've more than paid my retribution, both in blood, sweat, and tears. And so I don't hold myself to the person I was then, because if I did, then that would mean I'm denying all the progress I made, and then that would bring into question, so why am I even trying? If I'm always the same piece of shit that I was back then why am I even doing what I'm doing now, if it means that I'm never going to change? So I rejected that idea. It also just wasn't a healthy mindset, because it means I would limit myself to so many different things I wouldn't believe in myself. And quite frankly, it just didn't do anything for me besides make me feel bad. I always give other people chances, so why can I not do the same for myself? If I'm going to believe something, I want to believe it with good reason. I'm also a big fan of pragmatism, which is essentially the idea that not everything has to be explained. If it works, it works. It doesn't always have to be logical. I don't need a lot of reasoning to believe that I'm the best at what I do or that I'm a great guy. I just believe it because it helps me, and it encourages me to continue being that person. I create an image for myself, so I make sure that I live up to that image I've created. Pragmatism can be helpful in a lot of ways. For me, I don't understand the rhyme or reason behind it, but I do it. There's another example. If you set your clock, let's say you set your clock ahead 10 minutes because for some reason that makes you more productive, or you set it behind 10 minutes. You might not know the reason yourself, but experimentation is important. It can help you look at things outside of the box, give you a new perspective you may never have considered. And then building off that perspective, you might find other things as well. At the very least, it allows you to be more creative. I feel like in the field of psychology, we feel the need to over-explain everything on why it makes sense, and then give a 10-page essay on why this might be better than this. And sometimes it helps to just stand back and believe in the idea of pragmatism. That's not to say you shouldn't analyze things that you're looking into, but more so to say that it's okay to just take a step forward, and as long as you're walking, you're making progress in this race that we call life. So, I want to also talk to you about what all this means to me and why it's so important to me to to sort of be as productive as possible. The reason being productive as possible is important to me, and to make videos like this and to continue constantly uploading now. And even outside of this, I try to do other things like working out or dieting. It's because I want to be the best version of myself I can be. I was asked a question that really rattled me to my core. And they asked me, are you happy with life? If not, what can you do about it? And why aren't you doing those things? And then the other question becomes, if you did everything right, if you could be you were the best version of yourself, what would that look like? And already, for some people, they think about the stuff, but then they don't act on it. So psychology shows that motivation is often fleeting. You listen to that powerful speech or something, but once that speech is over, the adrenaline wears off, you're calm again, and you go back into the same habits. It's not consistent. It's not regular. You have to find that within yourself, and sometimes you just have to start doing stuff. Most important thing is to do the stuff you hate like you love it. And to fake it till you make it. You start building those habits. You start the more you do something, the stronger habit becomes. So, don't get it twisted. You are not going to feel the same way you do about it day 1 as you are year 10. Especially if you put your all into your soul and body. For me, that was working out. Like, straight up, that was working out. I did not like working out at all. Fuck. In fact, I really... God, I hated it. I would get up and I wouldn't give it my all. And in fact, I would be really lazy. And eventually, it just got to the point where, I was dreading it. I'd push it off. But the biggest thing for me was I did working out first thing in the morning. That's what I usually do now. The reason I do it like that is because, one, the less time I have to think about it, the less time I have to think about the excuses I'm going to make for skipping that day. The other reason is because it's the hardest thing of the day. So if I can do the hardest thing of the day, both physically and mentally, that means all the other tasks that I'm now going to have to do, they're easy. It's all downhill from there, not the other way around. The other thing is it releases endorphins. You feel great. You get the runner's high, especially if cardio and running, once you finish your workout. So I can carry that feeling throughout the whole day. Also, it positively impacts your blood pressure and heart rate for the whole day and your blood sugar. So if you're diabetic, this is a great way for insulin resistance. So it was also that I saw all these incredible people. I've started to have a little bit of a change of heart on the topic of self-help, but only due to one man, to be particularly honest. I still think self-help is toxic. I still think it can be bad. But sometimes you find that diamond in the rough, and that would definitely be David Goggins. Now, I still stand by the idea that you're not going to be a David Goggins, more than likely, but I've seen that if it really comes down to individuals and what matters to them the most. If being hyperproductive is what matters to you most, then yes. But on the other hand, it's also a fine line that if you get caught up in work all the time and you neglect your friendships and those are more important to you, then you might regret it. So it's a happy median. There's a lot of nuance and gray area. So you have to find a good middle ground for this. But one thing that David Goggins said that I did really like was where he came from and his mediocre life and how he felt like he was always going to be what other people said he was going to be, a failure. And he was reinforcing that through his lifestyle and what he was doing. And that really fucked me up because that story is the story of many unresolved potential. I actually things that got me out of fast food in particular was seeing grown men, who could be as old as my grandfather, working at McDonald's, or this guy who was really nice. He was an Army vet, retired, but he was working at TA, cleaning shower rooms and shit. And I just remember thinking, like, that could be me, making $14. You know, some of them $10 at McDonald's, $10 an hour to $15 an hour at the age of like 50 or 60 years old. That could be me. And that's what happens when you get complacent, because the main idea is, if you're just saying, oh, I'm happy if things as are, then either best case scenario, they stay the same way, or any other situation, they get a little worse or maybe tragic. Look, if you aim for the moon and you do everything you can to get there, even if you fall short of the moon, you land among the stars. So what I like to do is, even if I'm not qualified for a job, if I can just somehow get an interview with perhaps a CEO or something, or somebody who's rich, I want to ask them how they got to the position and what I can do to get to that position as well. Because I might not be there now, but that doesn't mean I won't be there later. And that's what people are thinking. Whenever they apply for a job or something, they think it's a waste of time to even go there for the interview, right? And talk to them. And because they, with reason, believe they will be rejected. But even if you are rejected from the interview, you can at least ask them, like, hey, I'm not giving up here. I'm determined to make it into this company, and I want you to know that. And I want to ask you, how can I get here again? And how can I get to your position? Please, can you tell me? I'm dead serious about this. There was a guy who's been really close to me, a pastor. Keith is a great man and has helped me out a lot. And he was one of the biggest ones. He took me to this place called Frickers. And I remember, because I was homeless at the time, I just got out of this place that was, it's hard to talk about, but it was really bad. I was around two people who were really, really bad people. I'm talking really bad people. Did not want the best for me, did not care about me. Pretty much abandoned me when I needed them most. And Keith took me out to Frickers, and we sat down, and I had spent all this time suffering for years, and then scraping by, getting a $1 banquet meal was the best thing that I ever could. And he took me out to this nice meal and sat down with me and talked to me about, like, what I wanted to be. And I remember asking him how I got to his position, and I was just so inspired, because he came from humble beginnings too. It's not like, we often forget, it's not like these people are just born into these positions. They're just not. What often is, some of them definitely, especially if you're talking millionaires or billionaires, make shortcuts or inherit generational wealth and shit like that. But we cannot argue that for every single person. We just can't. Because then that gives us the excuse to say, well, they're just lucky, and it takes all the responsibility off of us and what we can do. Not only that, it just makes you feel like it's pointless. And that's a crushing feeling, to feel like you're always going to be the same way. And a lot of people also say, they're okay with things, but if you're, but then they turn around. And if you're okay with things, you're okay with things. But you can't just say that and then turn around and start complaining. Are you really okay with things? Who are you trying to convince? Because it ain't me, man, because I see right through it. Are you hoping that you'll tell enough people that you'll start telling yourself the same thing subconsciously? For me, I said things are good enough, right? But they're not good enough, because the moment that I had the opportunity to do better, I took it. So they weren't good enough. And I took it like someone who was desperate, right? I took it. I ran with that motherfucking shit so fast. So, no way was it good enough. I mean, the one thing that broke my heart, right? As bad as these people were around at the time, I remember one of them asked me for a banquet meal, a $1 banquet meal, and I got it for them. And they were really grateful for that. And I remember that was like their big thing, right? Is like having a $1 banquet meal. And they were so happy to eat that. And, you know, I felt really accomplished for giving it to them. And I remember just failing over and over again, doing the wrong things, you know. And they were really grateful for that. And that was one thing that, like, I was appreciative for them, and I didn't let that go away. And we didn't have anything, really. We had shitty phones that we were still using. And I was a bum loser who was barely working. And that's what you get when you start giving up on yourself, is a life that doesn't really have a direction or sense of purpose. That definitely hurt me a lot, and thinking about it even now is tough. And it wasn't just I couldn't provide for myself; I couldn't provide for other people who I saw struggling around me. You know, that sense of helplessness was bad. Money is not this evil thing. I think a lot of people try to convince themselves of this. It's a tool. That's all money is a tool. It's about how you use it. So, for me, it was seeing that I had other people who were also struggling. I was in, you know, like the slums of the slums, right? Very, 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 very bad neighborhood. One of the worst neighborhoods in America. Don't really want to talk about it where it is, but it was really bad. It was dangerous. I was assaulted many times, which encouraged me even more to get really heavy into MMA. And I thank God I did, because I almost got my life taken too. And there's a video for that if you just look through my videos, where I almost got killed. But I was amongst the evil of the world, you know, the slums. And I saw other people struggling, and desperate people do desperate things, you know. Like, I saw people who could not afford rent or anything like that, and they couldn't get a job or anything, and even if they did, it was paying them $10 an hour, so they turned to selling shit like meth or heroin, because that was good money for them, so they turned to that. And then there were people who would essentially sell themselves, you know, their bodies, get like $40-50 off that, use that for their children, help them out, and we're looking for all these different ways. And I could see the life in their eyes completely drained. They just, you know, everything was just a day-by-day struggle. You ask them what were their plans in the year, they couldn't fucking tell you. You can't help anybody else if you're still trying to help yourself. It just won't work. Because if you do that, then your ship's going to sink, and now no longer can you do anything because you're fucking dead. You went under and drowned because you didn't even make sure that you were safe before you tried to help somebody else. So for me, my goal was, I'm going to try to get as much money as possible so that way I can start giving back to people. I've been able to do that a few times recently where friends or loved ones, you know, have struggled. And so I was able to give money to them and help them out. And they could start paying rent or make sure their lights or heat stayed on. And that felt really good. That felt way better than I could ever put into words. I've been on both spectrums, both sides of being in a situation where I had a good amount of money, and also being in a situation where I've been poor. I've been on both sides. And I found, so one side was I had family members who thought, you know, we'll just neglect you and here, go buy yourself a new gaming system or shit, or buy yourself new clothes. You know, we won't really pay attention to you. But on the other hand, I had the other side where when I was living with certain family members, I was poor as shit. And it didn't matter if they were loving or caring or nice. If we can't eat, we can't eat. No good amount of goodwill is going to change it. I'm thinking about, you know, where am I going to get my next meal? So it's about finding a good in between. Again, money is a tool, not an evil thing. So I found out that one, even if I had the money, I didn't want to be dependent on somebody else, because then they can use that as leverage to, you know, keep me like a leashed up puppy and perform tricks and do what they say and don't step out of line, or else we'll take this away. But on the other hand, even if I was around the best of people, if we were poor as shit, best case scenario, we were all going to starve together and be miserable together. And that just wasn't exactly a great option either. So, what does all this mean for me, really? Well, it means that I had to learn how to be independent. Because here's the thing, right? You should find a happy medium. You should definitely have people around you. But you need to be careful about who you have around you. It's been a lot, mostly family members who have ever fucked me over, done me wrong, and done me dirty. Because we don't get to pick our family members, unfortunately. And so some of us feel like it's almost like an obligation that we have to be around them. But listen to me, I'm hoping I can rebuild bonds with some of them. Some of them I'm chill with now. Some of them are, I'm a lot closer to now. But some of them, unfortunately, are real pieces of shit. I'm talking like going to jail, prison, robbing people, trying to kill people, selling drugs, beating people up, mistreating animals, bedbug, cockroach type houses, talking shit about you behind your back, plotting on your demise, stealing from you everything that's, would indicate that they hate your guts, and then telling you they love you, which is a big spit in the face. I heard the saying, God protect me from my friends, I know my enemies are. And I always like that because, at least if I know I hate you, I know I gotta maintain distance. I know, what you're about. But the problem is that with all these other motherfuckers, I just didn't know until I knew. It was often in the form of some really big betrayal. I remember, and there's a lot to work through, right? There's a lot to work through, and that's the thing. I'm afraid to let some of them go for the longest time, but once I let them go, I found peace, because then I could focus my attention on people who actually mattered to me. I don't think people appreciate how little time they really have in their life. Here we are, right? Where we're hoping we'll live to 70, 80, 90 years old. But even if we live there, is it going to be as high quality of life as what we are living while we're in our youth right now? I'm 25 years young. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be like this, my youthful prime, forever. By the time I'm, 45, the risk for heart attack goes up substantially. That's just heart attack. That's not all the other risks that go up pretty heavily. So I'm young right now and I'm feeling good. But this is very temporary. This is very limited in what's going to be. And I don't want to waste that time, the best years of my life, while I'm figuring shit out on these fucking losers, especially when it comes to my own family members, or just absolute loser bums. Don't want the best for me, talk shit about me behind my back. And I know they do. They think I'm dumb. They think I don't know. But it's like, I know, they know that I know, but we never speak about it. And I've tried speaking to every single one of them before about it. Try to get real deep with them, but I just never felt that connection. I never felt that connection, that understanding. Like they couldn't get with my level. They just didn't want to. Or maybe they couldn't, or whatever the reason. I just couldn't get with them like that. And that hurts because it's oftentimes, part of it I own up to my responsibility for it, but you have to have something in common with people. You can't just do it on the basis of we're family. That shit's retarded. So the biggest thing for me was finding how, examining. I took a step back from talking to all of them, to see how I'd feel, because cutting something off, cold turkey, you might regret it. And that's the last thing you want to do is regret. So I took a step back and, gave it a little trial run. I didn't say that I was doing it or anything. I just took a step back and gave it a trial run. I found that I was so at peace. I was so at peace. And a lot happier for it. So that's when I made the decision that I was just done with them. Because it's not like I hadn't tried a million different times. I tried over and over again. Lord knows I tried. So many times. I have people who are way more deserving of the title of family now that are in my life, that show up to, for example, the commitment ceremony, that tell me positive things, that don't talk shit about me behind my back, that don't say when I'm doing wrong, that I feel the good vibes with, that are there for me, that love me, that get along with me, that are willing to have a dialogue. I mean, like, actually intelligent people that I can really talk to about shit and really form a connection. Because, you know, it's shallow surface level shit is fine sometimes, but sometimes I want to open up. And, you know, I'm not just talking about like talking about my vulnerabilities and insecurities. You know, opening up and getting real doesn't have to be sad. It can be talking about like big dreams and aspirations and a new promotion and sharing hobbies and interests. Like, I want to be able to talk to you about real shit and let you know all about me, not just how was the game last night. And I found like I had that problem with my family members. Just never really got close. And they all talk shit about each other. They all talk bad about each other. And then they act buddy-buddy in front of each other. And I was just not about that. That's fake as shit. Like, there's no way around that. That's just fake as shit. And it's not like they ever really supported me or took part in my interests and stuff when I would always take part in theirs. That was a big thing that really got to me real fast. You know, speaking to that, I also learned how much time is quick, but how much you can get done in a day when you just sit down and start working on shit. So I've had so many projects that in my head seemed like forever, and it was like let's say take 8 to 40 hours. But these projects, when I broke it down into tiny bits, maybe, you know, 40 hours seem overwhelming, but if I just focus on the immediate moment and just see what I can do and then stop when I feel like it, it's not so bad. It's when you get caught up and you're looking at how far the finish line is and you're thinking about all the stuff you have to do, but it's not like you have to do it all right then. You're in the immediate moment. You're here right now. All that matters is that you do it. We tend to overcomplicate shit, and we don't just focus on what can we do at the immediate moment that's most bearable. It's the same way back to exercising. Sometimes when I run long distances, it can feel unbearable, but I just focus on what I can do right now. I might go 1, 2, 1, 2 and count my steps like that. I might do a mantra saying I'm the best, I can do this, I will do this, I've got this. I might calm my breathing, you know, inhale, what is it? Inhale energy, exhale relaxation. Shit like that. Because at the end of the day, even if I get a little bit done, it's a hell of a lot better than getting nothing done. And listen, there's, you know, call it what you want, call it God, call it your self-conscious, call it whatever. But there's this little nagging voice for a lot of people, you know, call it your self-conscious, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, that tells you, hey man, you should be doing this. Hey man, you shouldn't be just sitting there relaxing. Hey man, you got this bill to pay, or hey man, you got this to do. And the more you ignore it, the more it starts nagging you, and you sit there and you're, you know, on Netflix, you're watching Netflix, but you're not really relaxing. You're sitting there and your attention's very, I really should do this, maybe I should shower, I need to get ready for work, you know, it's getting time, I should call this friend or call and pay this bill or blah, blah. That's not real relaxation. You gotta look at it. If you really want to relax, if you really want to enjoy yourself, you know, if for nothing else, maybe you don't want to be productive, but maybe you want a better relaxation time. So maybe the option would be here is to increase the quality, not the quantity. Maybe you'd lose an hour or two of watching Netflix, but because you went and got all your shit done, now when you watch it, you can give it your full attention. And there's so many more things, but I don't want this to get super long. So maybe I'll come back to this in a bit, but for now, this is just some of a lot of things that I've learned, and I will write out a list on more stuff in the future. Thank you guys.